Welcome, cadets, to Starfleet Academy, a Star Trek podcast by Phantastic Geek. My name is Matt, and all rise for Admiral Pete. Hello, Pete.
It is my honor to be present for the people I care about. Starfleet Academy, a Star Trek podcast by Phantastic Geek for episode 107, Cosine, comes to you now via Warp Slug.
And just a bit of fleet news before we arrive at the episode. Pete, it seems like we do it every week. Let's go from Star Trek to Star Wars and the end of everything.
Matt, some people don't understand words. I read a number of reports this week in the wake of the Star Wars Mandalorian and Grogu trailer, which was a ton of fun, that Jon Favreau is done with Star Wars after this movie. And what do you know? People are wrong.
Well, Pete, explain this to me, because I see there's a forward quote, which is, quote, feels like a culmination. So I assume Favreau is now leaving and he's going to go make Chef 2 and Swingers 2, etc.
Yeah, despite the fact that his buddy Dave Filoni is in part taking over Lucasfilm. Yeah, there's been no determination that he's done. There are still plans for a fourth season of The Mandalorian. He says that this movie feels like a culmination, but not is a culmination, and I'm leaving, and goodbye.
Pete, do you think Dave Filoni now makes Favreau call him Mr. Filoni?
No.
Anyhow, moving on to Marvel, specifically Daredevil Born Again. What's the news coming out of there?
Solo premiere episode, Matt, whereas we got two last year, almost a year ago now, another week be a year. There will be just one episode premiering on Tuesday, March 24th.
A, I feel like that is a vote of confidence. And B, it's another reminder, Pete, that there's this newfangled idea in Hollywood, which is, what if you made more episodes per season and multiple seasons? And what if the seasons came out like every year or so that you can keep that continuity as a fan of the show?
Well, remember the new Marvel television tagline, we make seasons of TV now.
Which A, they have said, and B, you and I have kind of sneered at a little bit because it's no longer episodic movies. Okay, fine. All I know is, Pete, whether it's watching The Pit with its longer episode runs, whether it's watching Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the smaller episode run, but the knowledge that the next season is coming before too long, like, finally Hollywood is starting to get a little less impressed with, like, each episode is hand-hewn by this, that, the other, and, like, it's okay to have a little bit of a factory here. Like, I think there was this misunderstanding. People fall asleep to The Office and to Friends, therefore we just need to find the next 6-episode Friends. No, people enjoy it because it's this ongoing story that you can go back to. So bring it on for Daredevil Born Again Season 2, and we know that Season 3 is happening as well. Just not releasing this year.
To DC Studios, Matt, where we have confirmation from James Gunn that Brave and the Bold, so a different Batman story, will be out before Matt Reeves finishes his Batman, the Batman trilogy. So there will briefly be two The Batmans.
Pete, I've said it before and I'll say it again. James Gunn, I'm sure you're a fan of the podcast. Robert Pattinson can do both. Maybe James Gunn has secretly cast or is planning to cast the person who's going to be the next great iconic Batman, and I might be proved completely wrong, but put Pattinson in the gray and the blue suit for the DCU, keep him in the black for the Matt Reeves universe. It'll all just work. People will figure it out. We're not all that. Not everybody's like, well, in issue 278, you see, like, I'm telling you, it's the way to go. Come on, James, do it for me.
Bringing it back to Star Trek, Matt, related to this episode, Karim Dion has thoughts about fans' reactions to his character.
I would not have thought that his presence would have his whether it's the actor or the character would have loomed as large as it has across these 7 episodes in a really rewarding way, I might add. But also, Pete, are they? Let me guess. It's the Star Trek fandom. All the fan directions and thoughts and ideas must be inclusive, wonderful, appreciative, etc.
Not exactly.
Is it because his character wears a dress just like Gene Roddenberry put men in dresses in 1987?
Uh, or how about Klingons in dresses before?
Yeah. I have no response to that other than to say, if only there was a show that would teach you to look past such, 20th century, 21st century things and look beyond it and learn that with the aliens we can have fellowship and togetherness and celebrate, I don't know, some sort of infinite diversity and infinite combinations, including Klingons and dresses. You'd think this would be the show or the series of shows, but I suppose not.
Do hate watches affect the ratings?
Well, only positively. This time
There
last
you go.
this time last week we were talking about the anti fan or the hate watcher sentiment that the show is already canceled or it was never made as 2 seasons. It was 120, blah blah blah. So those people help make more Star Trek too when they watch. So I guess it's at the end of the day it's win-win. And now class is in session.
In the spring semester, an announcement declares the Academy closed for the 4-day all worlds break. Caleb sits in the atrium and awkwardly records a message to Terima, who's recovering on Beta Z, before deleting it, but not before explaining that tomorrow is All Worlds Day and Captain Ake has set him up with a host family in the month and 2 days since they've talked. The digital dean announces there's a meteor shower in 4 days.
We have as part of this, I would say, really simple but elegant way to recap things like passage of time, the idea that Terima has missed a memorial service, life back to normal, intercut with this voiceover. We see Ake drinking a stiff drink and reflecting on life, indeed reflecting on the loss of the last episode, the passage of time, all that. It's just we've seen this 1,000 times before, but I always marvel at the ability for film and TV to have words about one thing over another thing that is emotionally related but not contextually related or not directly related, and it's immediately glued together. um we have this idea that during the all worlds day break, Caleb is headed to stay with a host family. But again, Terima has been on Caleb's mind. He ultimately deletes the message. Pete, my only complaint about this episode, it's a really weird user interface for their email, texting, voice message thing. Usually the stuff they make for on screen, I don't know, visual interfaces is really, really great. But Pete, he's a kid. He knows how to work all his clickety clacks and his pad texters, so it's all good.
Reno beams cadets away to locales like Kendra 2, Istanbul, and tries to talk Duluth out of it. Genesis and Sam wait their turn. Genesis says All World's Day is just about eating when her father puts on an apron. Sam glitches in pain, but says it's nothing and tells Genesis not to worry. Her injury triggered a minor regression error, and she's on the way to train Hollow experts who will code a patch at the re engineering clinic in Denver. She tells Genesis to think of her going to a spa. Ake wants a word with Genesis, whose father's shuttle is standing by in Mumbai. Ake hoped that she and her classmates, what they faced on the Miyazaki, wouldn't happen for a long time, if ever. But her cool head and strategic thinking did not go unnoticed. And Ake is recommending her for the pre command track, or what the kids call the captain's track. But Ake wishes the kids would call things what she does.
Genesis says yes, and the submission will be sent out after the break. Oh, say hi to your dad for Captain Ake, and then off you go, Genesis. Meanwhile, Darum talks with Jaden, the latter of which does not want to wear beachwear to Ibiza.
Evita.
Kyle is mourning the loss of Bavi, as are we all. And Jaden wants to be present for those he cares about. Lovely, beautiful. And here's Kyle, who, among other kind of more important interactions here in this scene, I like to say, Pete, it's the first time my eyes were fully digesting the back of the War College jacket that kind of has a slight black on black camo motif. And really good job with your costume design there.
It's on the front as well. It's black and blue.
Either way, we're back to Caleb, who's having a hissy fit with Ake. Why didn't you ask Nusbraka about mom? You know, what with all this drama going on and life and death and tricks and all of that. Um, Interesting line here. Never hand a sociopath personal information. It sounds weirdly specific, although I think Pete, it's one to live by. I don't know when you might need to use it, but it's one to live by. Ake assures Caleb that he is part of a season-long story arc as like one of the primary fictional characters in this fictional narrative. She is looking for mom in the scenes that you aren't watching, in the scenes that don't make it to the show. So meanwhile, go to Dakar. And why is Ake packing such a big bag with 4 pairs of boots when she doesn't wear shoes? That too is a great line.
Yeah, the Caleb does not want to go to this host family in Senegal, and this great affectation of Ake not being able to close her bag and him helping her out there while simultaneously moving the story forward till she ultimately relents. Fine, he can stay there, gets access to his room, but everything else is going to be sealed off. So there's no way you'll be able to get into any trouble here, and Reno will be around, so you're not unsupervised.
And to put a button on things, as for Tarima, he doesn't know how to help her or how to be there for her. He may visit her later, though, which I I just felt like it was a very teen thing to say. Like, I don't know how to be there for her. Maybe by being there for her physically, but again, I'm not making fun of it. I think it's a very authentic moment. We go back to Darum, who needs to pack, but does he hear something down the hall that way? Instead, this way, he sees what the subtitles tell us is a Kionian pebble flitting down the passageway. Then he's grabbed from behind. He's stunned from the front. Jaden turns the corner, seeing two baddies, in quotes, taking Darum through a portal. Jaden pauses, then jumps after, through it, taking us to the credits.
The sunset moon hangs over Kionia, where the portal opens on the circular stage, and Kraag hears shouting. He grabs a rock and enters a tent where the royal guard have Darum, who's wearing a laurel. He diffuses the situation by explaining that Jaden is his cosign.
His best man. By the way, Pete, I think the physical set here is a reuse of that planet at the end of this latest season of Strange New Worlds, where yeah, it was the
100%. We
which
need
is
to do a little bit of a better job of varying things. So I get it. It's space and new worlds and everything, but we can't have them look the same.
Like even if it was like, oh man, they're all painted blue. Okay, cool. It's a different, but or Pete, hang on to
Even
that.
just the shape of the
Yeah.
space. Okay. I get it. Again, it's 360 degrees, but surely there are geometric things that they could do so that it doesn't seem to be the same exact circular space every time. I don't know. Put square objects in it and arrange it in a square so it seems different.
Particularly, they must have filmed the use of this set must have been, within 6 months, eight, whatever it is. Like I know Stranger Worlds was filming then Academy, but the people in charge of wheeling out sets must have been like, hey, we used this 4 months ago. But I digress, Pete. Let's go back to the atrium, which is a set that gets reused as the atrium and the atrium only. He's meditating. He's got the cucumber slices on his eyes. He's listening to the music.
I think we're seeing why Sandro Rasta got this job, despite being relatively unknown.
He is a fit fella indeed. Um, Taking the sun as well. Genesis is there too. She's cleared to be here. Okay, maybe she beamed back and then edited the transport logs to be here. Maybe she's here to hack and or get a jump on the spring research project. Regardless, Genesis is blocking the sun for Caleb's tanning. Let's play the game Toxic or Not Toxic, a great Starship game. Pete, when will that come out? I want the Toxic or Not Toxic,
I don't.
colon, a Starfleet Academy. Do they make, I mean, I know they don't make VCR board games anymore. They probably don't make DVD board games anymore, but like an interactive YouTube board game or something. Like, come on, it's. Why do we need to do the merchandising work every week on the podcast here versus the people at Paramount? Paramount, call us. We have ideas.
Your expensive pin set hasn't arrived yet.
I didn't quite go through with that purchase, but alas.
Wonder why not.
Ah,
Genesis's father, though, has been invited to do a symposium on Ursa Nowhere, which is a great location, re- real or not. So that she's snuck back here. She's going to get a jump on her spring term paper, telling, of course, the guy who's getting a D in exochemistry. Um, so yeah, they're going to work together to coexist here, but back to the Sunset Moon, Matt, where we get the details of a traditional Kionian marital abduction.
indeed, it's a ceiling. Also, well, that's the other end because they were promised to each other as children. Um, Shades of the Vulcan culture, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
He, Darum, did not think this would happen so soon with Kyra. Cue her, looking lovely in her shell dress. Jaden is happy to be here, and he couldn't decline even if he wanted. Ha 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 ha. And by the way, Pete, may I point out that starting with actually, I guess it's been a couple scenes now. We have a very simple kind of mandate for this episode, and I don't mean the one that Jaden wishes he was on in Ibiza, but just so you know, here's how post credits the scenes go: Sunset Moon Academy, Sunset Moon Academy, Sunset Moon Academy, and so forth. Not a complaint. It's kind of delightful to have two A stories and not, I mean, this is an episode that's deep on emotion, not big on interstellar drama. They know what they're doing. They don't need to overly complicate it. And Pete, take us back to the academy here.
Yes. So with the toxic versus non-toxic gauntlet then thrown down here, first up is ambiguous exoplanet discharge.
Which is in fact not toxic. They reach for a suborbital shelled slug with something, something, something. I was thinking, Pete, that this was going to be a Wrath of Khan callback. I actually like the low key humor that I'll just say it's revealed at the end of the scene. The idea of a warp slug, that's just funny. It's not super funny. That's just funny that the slow thing is a fast thing. I appreciate it. But Caleb is going to hold his hand in the jar for a while. Genesis asks about Terima. The conversation is slow. Then Caleb gets bit by the slug. His ears start to swell humorously. It's toxic, and Genesis wins. And then here, the slug on the run. It's slow. It's fast. It's a warp slug.
So wait, Genesis, a slug, like it's all Rathacon.
There you go. And may I point out now, because the episode by design does not do anything with this, I had wondered, is this going to be the episode with Caleb's girlfriend sick? Caleb looks to get a new girlfriend in Genesis. Therefore, we get a triangularly shaped, relationship triangle here. And I love that they don't do it. Yes, there's some warmth between these two characters. Maybe Caleb is thinking possibly about flirty possibilities, but it's all kind of pushed deep down. And I just appreciate that at least for this episode, they're not going there for it. And Pete, there's only 3 to go for the season, so I would say don't go for it. Sometimes hetero boys and hetero girls can just be coworkers and friends.
Is the triangle elsewhere, Matt?
Uh, uh, Pete, might it be found? At least 2 sides of it, maybe on the sunset moon. Take us there, please.
Yes. Kyra is sorry about the surprise marital abduction here. She hopes to get rid of that tradition one day, but has a heart to heart with Darum and, with their nuptials pending, the plan, right? That they would wait a little bit, 5, 6 years before they got sealed. Um, but yeah, what's happened to that? Her parents have happened, is what's happened. Her mother has had a health scare. She's fine. Don't take it to red alert there, but her parents have decided they would abdicate early, thereby throwing that word into the conversation about a third of the way through the episode, clearing the way for her and Darum to be sealed and take the throne.
Yeah, is he up to it? He says yes to the dress. In this case, it's her dress. Although Pete, if he wanted to wear one, that's okay too. When they do hug, by the way, Darum, who luckily gets the close up, looks very non-committal. Again, I celebrate the fact that this is an episode that is emotionally deep, but not textually challenging. It's nice. It's nice to be here. We go back to the academy where it's time to hunt for that warp slug. It's up there, and they ice blast it. It's time to hide, for Reno is tiptoeing in with a broken toe. She's on the comm line with Thok here. Thok, who I have to admit, Pete, not that I wasn't paying attention, not that I couldn't hear, etc. The complete subtext here of Thok freaking out that Reno has merely what in our modern day situation would be stubbed a toe. Okay, maybe it's broken, but in the Star Trek context, you wave a light over it, it's fixed it that easily. But Thok is ready to drop everything and this and that, the other, and the universe is out to kill you and all this. Like, again, there's a slow comedy to this whole episode. Um, we see the space slug oozing overhead. Genesis freezes the goo. Reno is none the wiser. Caleb says he couldn't have made that shot, which Genesis says is sad. And Pete, I know I just said that there's not romance between the two characters, or not kind of up at the forefront of the story here, but what these two actors have is on-screen chemistry, whether it's going to be romantic, whether it's big brother, little sister, big sister, little brother, whether it's going to be romantic one day, whether they're just going to be best buds forever. This is what chemistry looks like. It's that ethereal thing that you can't put into a script necessarily, that you can't necessarily cast for one on one. And at a certain point, you put two people together and you say, there it is.
I think smartly written as well, the characterization of the Genesis, that she doesn't seem to be looking nor needs somebody else in her life that you can be friends, that, you know, she's hoping on this pre-command track, and really that's kind of a lonely one.
I hadn't fully thought of it like that. I was just thinking of her in the context of her being independent. But I love that what you have just said. Not only is it's not just like, oh, that's an interpretation. Pete, you're absolutely right. There it is, again, beneath the surface a bit. And whether it's next week's episode or next season's episode where we can dig into it, we get a bit at the end of this episode, kind of, sort of. Um, Again, it's a credit. We have fully formed characters in this show, even though we haven't said, this is the Genesis episode, complete with tragic backstory and etc. etc.
Last episode here, episode 7, before things are really kind of stuck in cement.
Either way, we go back to the sunset moon again. Pete, one other, one other. Jaden is truly ready to leave. He's going to find some way back to Earth, but Darum needs him here to help make it all work. Will Jaden make a speech, which is his fear, as established a couple episodes ago? Oh my goodness, what a great use of all these characters. Of course, it's best man speech, least likely to give a speech. Love it. Um, and Jaden asking, will Darum abandon the academy for this? And the answer is perhaps yes, he will.
Yeah, but a cosine can't abandon a newly sealed Javera and Ucha here. So um, I love that the Klingon is honor bound to do this, um, despite the uncomfortability that it creates for him. We're going to talk about it because people have sent us messages, and surely it's fodder for theories, but that Darum's parents mentioned in a previous episode, and here on this matrimonial moon in which he gets married, don't make an appearance. Like, what the heck, man?
That's an interesting observation. Yeah, I look forward to digging into that more. We go back to the academy where Genesis and Caleb are laughing in a montage. Just so much fun. When is the last time Caleb talked to Tarima? It was the day of the ambush over a month ago. He hasn't really reached out. He admits that Tarima saw into him, and that scared him. Um, as for our next adventure for Genesis and Caleb, let's go sit in the captain's chair. No way, says Caleb. Hacking the bridge is the hardest thing. Genesis says that today is the day to do it. Of course, she has been in other captain chairs, that of her father, of course, but she always has followed in the footsteps of others. Has she earned her own path? There, Pete, is that bit of insight into her character.
Yes, trying to get into that chair of her own accord, hinting at her dilemma. But back to the matrimonial moon, which, despite the onset stuff, we get some really good vistas from further away as this dried out, once watery moon here. But we've got Darum in his wedding finest here, and then seeing Kraag in his, and he's a little bit cold. Klingons, of course, don't like the cold, but then we get the tear to the back of Darum's jacket, which creates the dilemma here.
A tear that they conveniently don't address and actually don't show on camera in future scenes. So, no harm,
But
no
it
foul.
makes it easy to give the cold Klingon the torn jacket.
This is certainly true. Um, this Pete is also the scene. Perhaps there's a bit of a spark between Darum and Jaden. Um,
Perhaps.
okay, there's a spark. Um, Especially this whole idea. Darum has lived his life thinking that this was his path, that of his life ending as the laurel wearing king of the planet. But maybe Pete, there's another path. Now I don't just mean the academy. Um, this yeah, we see the Darum that we met at the beginning, who we are going to, in a certain sense, be reintroduced to at the very end here. Um, Darum cannot bail on his family and his world like Jaden did, and with that, Jaden walks away, and that was that was definitely a scene of yeah, Darum returning to the form in which we met him in episode one.
Yes. But to the bridge of the Athena, where Caleb has hacked Genesis in so she can sit in the captain's chair, and a number of systems start to be activated. But wait a minute, the warp core, no, 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 no. You can't do that. And Caleb now coming to the realization of what Genesis is trying to do.
Yeah, particularly as we see Caleb shutting this stuff down, the belay the warp core order, shut down impulse, etc. We see Genesis using programmable matter to make a chip key from the captain's chair, and Caleb affirming that he knew this was a hustle, and now that she's got access to every database on the ship, what is it that what's she doing that's so important? She says her application, her whole record is being sent to the pre-command track committee for review, and she needs to make changes to it. If Caleb walks away, he'll never find out what's wrong. And with that, Reno enters, finding not her pad, but two cadets in the deepest of, Pete, if I can go to another space universe, the deepest of Banthapoodoo.
But back to the sunset moon, where the nuptials take place over a montage. Maybe that's so we don't involve the parents, although I'm not sure necessarily in this culture that they would walk the uh, groom down the aisle or even be present. It seems kind of a low key affair. And then the happy couple are sitting later on as the toast is given for the bride, um, and Darum has to explain that his cosign, wait, is right here.
And it's a lovely speech here. It's heartfelt and confident, talking about knowing Darum as a classmate and a shipmate, but no one knew why he was confident and brave and maybe a little cocky. Darum taught Jaden to be honest and make voices count, and Darum is about putting others first above himself. Jaden will miss his classmate and his friend, but this is a good reason to part and to the happiness for the couple. And again, Pete, the wisdom here of episodic but serial. Jaden's come so far, and it really is a great speech.
In Ake's office here, she breaks down what's happened, despite the fact that Caleb is involved, that it's Genesis, and she explains that she had been the driving force here and coerced Caleb.
And why is this? It's because she wanted to delete the letters of recommendation from her file. Her references were altered from the original. Yes, she may be driven, but each reference said that she was driven by fear. Ake says that perhaps these letters showed a target that Genesis could aim for in the quest of self knowledge, in the quest of self improvement. And Ake notes that we are all wildly flawed. Pete, she doesn't mean you and me and the people listen to Phantastic Geek. Just so you know, she means everybody else. But Genesis is not being expelled, though she's not being nominated for pre command either. 200 hours of menial service is given for both cadets starting now. And I like that Caleb and Genesis, Genesis leaves without comment. So does Caleb. That's growth for Caleb, I would say.
It is, and 300 hours so far for the year for this guy. Like he's put in a lot of menial duty.
He, listen, those doorknobs and handrails, they shine because of him. We go back to the wedding reception where Kyra looks pensive. She wants Darum to abdicate. Hey Pete, didn't you point out at the 1/3 mark of the episode she talked about this being a concept for their ways? Jaden's toast described a man that Kiara never knew. Pardon me, has never met. The academy is the place for him to be himself. And he started his life with Kiara with a lie, and she deserves more, she says, in this really great moment of affirmation. Go live the life that you were meant to live. And she steps away. Jaden joins Darum and says, let's go home, friend. Pete, this is an incredibly compact scene that does everything it needs to do, probably in about 60 seconds. Um, and like after that, unseen, they then leave. So it's all tied up with a bow in what is an incredibly efficient scene and an incredibly efficient episode.
That she realizes that he has perhaps an even more important destiny at Starfleet Academy and that he's good at it. Um, hence her disappointment. Why weren't you truthful with me? Um, narratively uh, elegant.
It is. There's an elegant simplicity to this episode, and simplicity is not a bad thing. Um, we return to the academy with spring break now over. Darren will be all right. And then there's Kyle across the atrium. Jaden congratulates Darren, especially as Kyle makes his way over, for realizing that he's essentially a butthole. Um, Kyle shows on up. He's a little sunburned, but he's so sorry about Darren's situation. But Darren essentially says, hey, Kyle, nice sunburn, you dope. And the butthole is back, Pete.
Yes. And then with mops in hand, Caleb and Genesis continue to bond here uh, over the situation. Her advice that he really needs to reach out to Tarima to not delete this one this time, just hit send and take care of that. So I think need to listen. They may do the trope where the thing he wanted all along was right there for him, but but that she is counseling him to reach out to Tarima, I think is noteworthy and important in terms of her characterization. Yes, she was doing a dishonorable thing um, in that she wanted to alter, delete, get rid of these letters of recommendation. Um, but she does not seem like she's trying to steal Tarima's man.
Partway through his message, I noticed kind of extras in the background, kind of their motion caught my eye. And I said, that's a weird choice. And I realized, oh, wait, it's because they are anticipating the meteor shower we then get intercut with this. All the cadets watching the meteor shower out the bay window. Indeed, Caleb reflecting on how he has run his whole life, but he does not want to run anymore. Then he joins them to watch the meteor shower. And again, a simple but elegant ending to the episode.
Red alert. All hands stand to battle stations.
Pete, we have a tactical analysis of this week's threats. Let's start with the threat of imposter syndrome.
It's the real through line in this episode, right? That both Genesis and Darum are afraid of what they face, that they're not up to it, that they're not enough. Um, and it's a uniquely millennial aspect. I mean, so much digital ink has been spilt about millennials and imposter syndrome.
I would add, perhaps not as a focus of this thrust directly, but I would add Caleb to the list in this episode in that he is grappling with, and again, he doesn't come out and say this, but he's grappling with kind of being an imposter in a relationship, in that he's so used to being alone and solitary, and he doesn't know how to behave in a relationship. So it's kind of there's elements of that as well. Um, but it's a heads up observation there, Pete, that is the through line in an episode that overall feels kind of like a jaunty, just the two separate stories and so forth, but teaching a lesson to us all. Let's use our long range sensors to scan for some theories. Pete, I know we're not at the end yet, but I want to start to think with an eye towards the thrust of these final three episodes, the thrust into season two. At this stage, 70% through the first season, do you think we will see any recurring cast members, recurring cadets elevated to main cast? And do you think that we will see any main cast, or recurring for that matter, exit the show for story reasons?
I mean, I know Giamatti is not in season two. Um, and I'm prepared to say more. I don't want to necessarily to spoil things. Um, it remains to be seen what their second season will be like, other than, hey, the next year or term or what have you, right? It doesn't have to be that we're in the spring semester here in episode 7. It's conceivable that we're going to be finishing the school year, although, what's a school year calendar look like in the 32nd century, right? um by the end of the season.
I think it makes narrative sense to say that the end of the season is the end of the school year. I think just because it gives you narrative possibilities in terms of, I'm going home for a little bit, and that's when I'm going to go learn Klingon karate. Great for season 2, Klingon karate, or things of that sort. Or where will Caleb go? Pete, maybe he will go live with mom, or Ake as mom, or like I think there's all sorts of great kind of end of one school year, time away, the time that the show is away, come back, new year, new kid to school, new whatever. Um, well, I mean, Pete, here's what I'd like to put forth as a theory. Here's the reason I asked the question. I'd like to see more Kyle, whether he's full cast member, whatever label you want to give him in terms of his billing and his credit and his pay and all that. More Kyle, please. What a great guy.
I mean, does the war college become the fodder for people that we can either promote to full cast, like a Tarima, right? uh Seemed an awful lot like Bobby was going to become a regular, and then, you know they kill the poor guy. um I don't know. I don't know if that could be the case. I think it's a real question. When does Tarima return? Does she still have an inhibitor? Have they replaced it? What is next in her storyline?
Yeah, those are all interesting questions. I'll even hesitate to say this, Pete, because I never like this as a cause for story changes, but I'm thinking, do some of these recurring people, or rather, I'm speaking about the future, but they've already done season 2, but regardless of my tense, do some of these recurring people get better jobs, thus don't come back for season 2, and then you get the line to say, oh man, Kyle decided to go back to his farm planet, or whatever it might be. Um, you can't pay everybody as much as you like to pay the entire, extended cast here. Um, but on the topic of the War College, here's another kind of long-term prediction, Pete. When, not if, but when do we see the War College folded into Starfleet Academy? Do you think that's a season 1 thing, or is that a season 2 thing, or is it neither?
I think it's down the road. I think it's too soon. Um, you continue to milk the potential for conflict there before ultimately they could be integrated, and thus the lesson was learned that we don't need to focus on the war. We need to focus on the stars.
What other theories do you have?
That Sam continued to glitch at the beginning of this episode, and yes, you sent her to Denver, that great tech hub for holograms of Denver, to be fixed. Then she comes back, but it feels like it's still a story possibility, and working past the physical and emotional trauma that the cadets have been dealt with. I mean, for as much as we'll read in a little bit, seems like several of our listeners were down on this episode. I mean, considering what happened in the previous episode, this is really done in the spirit of the next generation's family. And if you don't know that episode, that's the story immediately following the best of both worlds, where you know we get this more intimate, obviously slower paced episode that's going to delve into those characters. That's the one where Picard goes home and gets in the fight in the mud with his brother. Um, you know, definitely drawn influence from that for this episode.
It will be interesting to look back to see, was Sam's glitching one episode after and 1 month, one story month after um, her injury, for lack of a better word. Was that a result of this story needed something to do to send her away, or some bit of business in terms of, here's my goal for spring break, come back, goal achieved, or is it the building of a larger story? Again, part of the benefit of living in this world of episodic and serial together, we get to not know. And I'd say, Pete, if we get to the end of this season and there's been no more glitches, great. For all we know, it could be the middle of the season finale. All right, Sam, go use your powers to power up the computer like you did last time, and then the glitches return, and it's a great story trapdoor. So definitely something to look out for there.
So the pre command withdrawn on Genesis's behalf there, but can she somehow earn her way back into those good graces for that captain's track?
I, I think the whole notion presented in this episode, or series of notions, are incredibly interesting. First of all, they've just started the second of 8 semesters at Starfleet Academy, and now essentially either you're pre-command track or you're not. And I'm sure there's all sorts of stories of people who became great captains without the pre-command track. But really, if you want to be, a Kirk, a Janeway, a Picard, etc., all these names through history, you kind of need the pre-command track thing. So I think that's interesting in terms of it kind of being exclusivity in an academy where apparently we're all seeing the potential of all people at all times. Um, I read relief on her face when she was told, "Hey, this is not going to be a path for you, at least right now, in the moment," which I think is interesting too. I will note, Pete, here we are 7 episodes into this show, and the two people destined to be captain, Genesis and Darum, they told us in the first episode, now neither of them are kind of captain track, or have at the very least have accepted their limitations, their accepted the need to be part of a larger group, not to always command it. Um, I do have a bit of a hard time imagining that we get to the end of season 2 and Genesis is now just like, I can't wait to be the best warp field specialist I can be. And one day, if I work really hard, I could be a chief engineer in 25 years. I sense more from her. And if you want to say in 5 episodes of next season, whatever, command track, sophomore year is now, an option for you. Great. Um, but I commend the show for taking the stand that it did insofar as it's a stand in this episode.
Does poor sunburned Kyle have something more to be worried about?
Like what? Red shirt status or
No,
melanoma?
the loss of his guy.
Um, you mean perhaps to Durham?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, Pete, somebody's going to do a romance triangle, a triangle. I mean, that's just it. It's there for the taking. And as I've said probably too many times this episode, this is a show that is okay having elegant simplicity to some storylines. Um, if anything, ever so brief tangent here. This episode had me thinking of the wonderful ride that was the first season of Discovery, but the first season of Discovery was like the one 8 episode storyline where things were kind of interchangeable any given episode, and then the 6 episode storyline that was part two of the season. And then yeah, you come up and you wrap them both up by the end of it. But kind of was everything was the great middle versus this is the episode where they do this, and the prior one has slightly different flavor and so forth. Um, so again, I appreciate all the structures here. Pete, if Kyle knew he was only recurring and not a main cast member, then yes, he would have even more to worry about because I think, again, we've
The
talked about
characters don't know their status.
the characters don't know their status. And I mean, I would be heartbroken if there's some sort of breakup scene at the end of this season and Kyle's like, oh man, well, I guess I'm never going to come across the quad to visit you guys anymore. Um, or if you hear in season 2, oh, Kyle went back to that farm planet because he got his heart broken. He decided the academy and the war college wasn't for him. Oh, extra heartbreak for we the audience. So, some sacrifice, emotional or physical, I think should be given as the season goes on. R.I.P. Bobby. So maybe Kyle's happiness is in trouble.
Did you catch the name of the coach called over the PA system?
I did not. Who's the coach?
Coach Otani?
Peter, there are a bunch of Dodger fans writing this episode.
I don't know. Definitely not Met fans. Are we ever going to meet Specialist Krebs and the Talaxian Furfly that each week does something naughty?
Pete, you zeroed in on this being a running gag well before I did. I know it's been going on, I think, every episode, just about every episode. I think at this point, you have to have some sort of appearance of it. It's too fun a thing not to. If it was every other episode, if it was not kind of escalating, as it does seem to be escalating, maybe just leave it. It's a joke. Presumably, you've given Colbert all his lines. Like you've had him in for one recording session to do a bunch of stuff. Some scripted, now can you do stuff about late to class, early to class, sports practice. Come on, let's do something with it. And Pete, week after week, I keep saying, wouldn't it be fun if they have any one of these, guest star roles or whatever it might not, whatever it might be. If in a guest star role you had a Star Trek person playing some other role, even if it was just for one scene, maybe Specialist Krebs, that will be the surprise where you go, okay, they didn't get Giamatti to play the world's oldest Academy entrant, but look, they got, pick your choice. They got Gates McFadden to play the world's oldest goofy Specialist Krebs here. I think that could be fun because this is a show that is okay having fun.
Can't state it with definitiveness, Matt, but seems like next episode seems really ripe for Sylvia Tilly to show back up.
I certainly look forward to that. I'm always mindful of the fact that Mary Wiseman left Discovery for bigger and better things after some time out there, came back, having found the greatest success with Discovery. And it's going to be a welcome return for her episode here because the Star Trek family is great and open. And heck, Pete, I just got done talking about returning Star Trek people. how about returning to play the character that we've known since 2018 in I guess now Lieutenant Commander Sylvia Tilly. With that, Pete, let's open hailing frequencies.
Hailing frequencies open, sir.
Pete, to Twitter we go. Some people call it X, I heard. And our poll was, how would you rate this episode? Was it a tip-top outing, or should it be peeling potatoes? And Pete, this is a weirdly symmetrical vote here, okay? One potato, cadets start peeling, got 37.5%. A bit high, I think, but the votes stand as they stand. Two anchors, minor effort ensign, got 12.5%. Three thumbs up commander, got 12.5%. And then four saluting emojis, salute captain, got 37.5% as well. So either way you look at it, top to bottom or bottom to top, 35, 12, 12, or pardon me, 37, 12, 12, 37. Some replies here. First up is from JT Adkins. JTA was me. This episode was a nice breather after last week's intensity. I'll email more comments tonight. Pete, that's called a sizzler, because when we go to email in a little bit, you're going to hear that email. So stay tuned.
Yes.
Spider-Ham Lincoln at TessLC139 says, I did not care for either story in this episode, regardless of whatever character development the writers were going for. Some have described this as a filler episode, but 10-episode seasons of Star Trek should never have or need filler. Worst of the season so far. And that echoed by Terry Womack at Terry Womack, who says, I'll second Tess LC139. This episode should have been left on the cutting room floor. I thought it was starting to get better. Then they air this trash. What were they thinking? Pete, some respectful disagreement of opinions here. I mean, they all seem to agree. I think I disagree with them respectfully, as dare say to you.
The idea of filler, and I get what they're saying. I don't feel like we're pejoratively throwing that around. The process of breaking a season and what happens in this episode and how it affects the season long story. I mean, look what we took away from this. Okay, Darum is no longer on this leadership path and now fully dedicated to Starfleet Academy. That's important. Genesis, we learned important things in her background. And though I know we're going to talk about Darum's parents, and we've talked about the dad role for Genesis as well, that we haven't needed to predicate their stories by bringing them in, right? That we haven't needed to define them based on the characters playing their parents, that the emphasis is fully on the agency of Genesis and Darum, I think is very important in terms of the story that you're telling.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that we get to have a healthy debate in this feedback segment here, because I think this might be my favorite episode of the season. In part because it's like college kids stuff, but not overly heavy on, like, I love you, baby. Why don't you love me? Like, it's not. I don't know. It's not Star Trek 90210. It's Star Trek Felicity or something like that. I don't quite know. This is a CW, not a Fox joint, something like that. But Pete, what feedback do you have on your end?
On the Phantastic Geek subreddit, Matt Kips247 writes, 7th episode. Few questions. If Jaden hadn't gone through the wormhole, who would have been the best man? What happened with Darum's parents at the wedding? Seemed to take a back seat and seemed okay with breaking up the royal family? Also, if they didn't marry, she wouldn't be the queen? So wouldn't be ruling alone? The whole marriage breakup would be a massive royal scandal. I can see a love triangle set up now that Caleb and Jen are becoming a thing. Writers setting up some drama there.
Okay, couple of thoughts. First of all, I will give a pass to the story for any royal family drama stuff, because Pete, we need only look across the pond this last week to know that sometimes royal families can be very, 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 very complicated. As for his parents not being there, maybe I am, Pete, as the kids say, standing for this episode. I'm gonna row against the flow here. Is it possible that his parents are there? They are just not pertinent to this particular story, which might be stretching things a bit. Like there's no like, hi mom, hi dad, here's my space friend Jaden. Okay, I'm not saying it's a great excuse, but maybe they're there. They don't get lines because they're not pertinent to this story. Perhaps more likely is they are so removed from his life that they're just simply not. They're not showing up for his wedding because Pete he didn't play space piano great back in the fourth grade or whatever his tragic backstory was. Um, as for who would his best man be if Darum didn't walk through, that's a fair finger wag at the episode as
Mm,
presented. I don't know why this guy's here. Oh, he's my best man. It works in that order, but I just think of like Darum's lifelong buddy, whatever. I don't know, Fredo. And it's like Fredo is sitting there going, "I thought it was going to be me, but instead you have a new buddy who happens to be Klingon, and your new Klingon friend you've known for all of 4 months, 5 months. Oh, he gets to be your best man now." Um, in my book, that's the most fair criticism, but yeah, I think the writerly hand does show with a lot of those questions.
it's true.
To the email inbox we go, Pete. And listen, not only did JT Adkins kind of presage this email in his tweet, but Pete, now he's writing his own copy. So I'm going to read directly from the email here, okay? And now a word from JT Adkins. JTA is me on Instagram and X and Blue Sky. Fantastic. So everybody pause the podcast right now. Follow JTA is me on Instagram, X, and Blue Sky. Welcome back. He says, fantastic ones. I really enjoyed the show's ability to change gears after last week's wild ride. Up this week, lots of subtle, small moments from several of the cast, deftly played. In particular, Genesis and Caleb's story was exceedingly well acted, with lots of nice little moments. To me, this isn't a filler episode, it's a character episode, and I enjoyed getting to know a few of our characters a little better. Also, it was nice to fill in some positive background for Darum, making him more than an a-hole without curing him of being an a-hole. Now let's move on to a theory of mine that will change everything. Tarima is a descendant of Captain Pike, perhaps his 2,600 times great-granddaughter. How do we know this? Oh man, Pete, my eyes looked ahead. This is really good. Buckle up, Star Trek V poster style. Tarima can simply kill by speaking, just like Black Bolt in The Inhumans, who was played by a time-traveling Captain Pike. Black Bolt accidentally killed his parents with his superpower. Tarima deafened her father with hers. Coincidence? I think not. Hashtag it's all connected. If you don't believe me, I've got some Marvel made-up sign insults to lob at you. Pardon me, I read that wrong. I've got some Marvel made-up sign language insults to lob at you. Stay fantastic. That from JT Adkins. Pete, I will just say, icing on top here, cherry on top here, rather. Our rule is always, even with an episode or a show that we're not thrilled about, to stay positive. The only time we stopped doing that was with Inhumans, which was terrible and which broke us. And I will never forget the marijuana farmer 3-episode story arc about the trials and tribulations of Hawaii marijuana farmers.
Man, there were some Friday nights doing, I think that was only 8 episodes, right? But it felt longer. Like, wow. Wow. Um, yeah. JT, no notes. Perfect.
Last email, Pete, comes from Josephina Avalos, who says as follows. Hey, fantastic. Missed emailing you, gents. Been listening in on the first couple podcasts. Still need to catch up on the last two. Just finished watching episodes 5, 6, and 7. Not going to lie, it's been hard to be motivated to watch. I'm just too used to traditional Trek. But when I'm watching, I'm seeing bits and pieces of Easter eggs that pay homage to the Trek characters we all know and love, and seeing the torch being passed to these youngins entices me to watch more. Especially in episodes series Acclamation Mill, Solving the Mystery of Benjamin Sisko. I teared up at the end when she figured out that Trill was Dax, like the Dax. The whole episode must have tickled Avery Brooks. Oh, Captain, my Captain quote was such a nice touch. I wonder if the original actor who played Cisco's son Jake was in the episode. I believe he was, right, Pete?
Yes, that was
Okay.
Sirach Lofton. Yep.
The Cisco food sampling was funny. I can totally relate to the food description. My mouth is on fire and I don't want it to go out. I can't help but to laugh at Reno's facial expressions at the mock dinner. I thought it was odd to eat soup with a hole in the middle of the spoon. And then she's like, I guess I'm really thrown by the fact that no one has a normal looking spoon. And her comment, yes, you played a lot of notes. In episode 6, Come Let's Away, yeah, the away mission. Seriously, we already knew who was going to die in order. First, the nobody knows who you are character. Then the antagonist takes a bullet for the main character. But let's wound one more not so important character. This was an eye candy episode from Caleb's biceps to seeing Admiral Vance again. Woohoo. But hey, no yelling for Tarima. She's never allowed to ride the roller coaster, scream at a concert, or be jump scared. For episode 7, Cozine seemed like one of those filler episodes that just focuses on character development and recovering from a heavy previous episode. Caleb's opening dialogue explains it all, trying to get back to feeling normal. Everyone's got some shore leave. Caleb ditched his adopted family to host him. I did that once when I was on active duty, says Josephina. I didn't ditch them, though. I got adopted at a duty station by a family for Christmas for 3 days. It was an awesome experience. OMG, the captain still isn't wearing shoes. Is she a hobbit? The whole royal wedding wasn't believable from the start, but what was believable was the moment Caleb gave Genesis the look after she froze the dripping slime. I was like, oh my gosh, he looked at her mouth and eyes. I don't care how much she and him talked about his relationship with Tarima. There was a bit of chemistry between these two, or a serious admiration, but whatever. Did you all see Reno's toe? What the heck did she walk into? The impact door? I'm so glad she's in this series representing Discovery, Doctor from Voyager, and Admiral Vance from Future Discovery. And all the random cadets walking around as background extras. Saw some familiar species from Prodigy representing that crew. I wonder why there's only aliens that walk on 2 legs, have arms, eyes like ours. Just seems like we're all cousins. Didn't Tilly go off and teach at some point? We need an appearance from Wesley Crusher, since he's now some being that deals with time travel. I told him that once at GalaxyCon. His character can just pop up anywhere now. Glad to be talking and watching Trek again. I look forward to y'all fine geeks comments and overviews. I'll leave you gents with some Reno's hilarious dialogue. Held your intestines with your own hands, sewed up the wound with your own mouth. So adorable. Semper Fi, that from Josephina.
Thank you, Josephina. I mean, Wesley's a possibility, but he's somewhere with Data's daughter. So I would imagine, doing that. Plus, we've had him on Prodigy as well at length. Tilly's right around the corner. If it's not next week, and I would put my money on next week. They've been very, very cards close to the vest on the remainder of the season. The first 6 episodes were screened. The final 4 have not. And we only know from Frakes that he's directing what he calls part 1 of the 2-part finale. That Tatiana Maslany is in that one. I doubt they would put Tilly in that as well. So she's got to be this week coming up, episode 8.
Well, coming up right now, Pete, are the wise words from Fred from the Netherlands.
Hello, Matt and Pete, and all listeners to Phantastic Geek. This is Fred from the Netherlands with a little feedback for Star Trek Starfleet Academy Season 1, Episode 7. A clear A and B story episode. I don't know which is the A story and which the B, whether the Caleb Genesis story is the A or the Adarum Jaden story. As said in one of the previous podcasts, I hoped for a Genesis-centric episode, so I was a little bit disappointed that she had to share it with Darum. The Darum Jaden story reminded me a little bit of the Spock to Pring story, and then of course especially in the episode Amok Time. I think the only connection is a kind of one of the two wants something or doesn't want something or is in emotional problems, and there is a friend around that helps, although reluctantly. I mean, Caleb didn't want to break into the bridge, And Jaden didn't want to be best man. Well, not really, but at the end they both did. Possibly I have to rewatch the episode because I'm still not fully clear about what Genesis wanted to hide in her resume, what she wanted to take out. Were that wrong or bad things about her, or were that appraisals which she didn't like because it's only because of her father's position? And of course, we all thought, is there going to be a spark between Caleb and Genesis, or are they just very good friends? Okay, that will be all for this week. Greetings, all the best, Fred from the Netherlands.
Thank you very much for your thoughts, Fred. On Genesis, she was concerned that her recommenders had really focused on her fear, that she does things motivated through fear and not through confidence, and she thought that it was going to in some way harm her application for the pre-command track.
That said, I would like to co-sign Fred pushing for a big Genesis episode. The flashback, the family, the her at the center. I think the show has done a great job really highlighting all the Academy kids and giving them thus far a variety of starring roles. Genesis kind of started with that, but she hasn't had the Genesis episode. So let's bring that on in the future. And indeed, Pete, I'd like to note that our future is made possible by those who support us on patreon.com/fantasticgeek.
Everybody who contributes gets access to exclusive content, all sorts of levels to choose from. And it takes just $1 a month to get you in that door. Can't contribute right now? You can still help out. You can get to Apple Podcasts, where you can leave us a rating or review on any of our 40 plus podcast feeds.
And Pete, let's keep the pop culture conversation going, whether it is Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, or beyond that. How can people be in touch with you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Threads. You can find me on Blue Sky at Peter, Pieterj Ketelar, Ketelar, 12,600, blah, blah, blah. Can't be wrong.
And while I'm personally on Twitter as Looking Back Lost, do be in touch with the podcast. Comment on fantasticgeek.com. Check us out on Twitter, Threads, Gmail, Blue Sky, Instagram. But wait, Pete, there's even more.
Facebook.com /Phantastic Geek with the PH, all one word, like it today.
Pete, can't wait to be back next Star Trek Sunday, which will also be March, which will also be when we start to think more about Daredevil Born Again. So just as one show starts to think about setting its sun for season 1, season 2 of Daredevil not far away. And with that, Pete, I will say adios to all listeners and give you the final word.
Class dismissed.